Welcome, everyone. Welcome, everyone, to the Massachusetts Department of Agricultural Resources Viability Grant Programs for Farms for fiscal year 2025. The agenda today is that I'm going to be talking about applying for grants, give you an overview of the 3 viability grant programs along with other staff, Jess and Laura, and then we'll talk about how to get more information. So first, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the grant application process at the state. Every time there is a new grant opportunity, there's what's called a request for response, or an RFR, for each program. That includes a lot of the program details, such as the program purpose, goals, eligibility requirements in order to apply, allowable uses of funds, the criteria that are used to select applicants, the estimated timeline, instructions for submission, and the actual application form to fill out. And it should be noted that if you or anyone you know needs translating, that we can translate applications upon request. Eligible applications received are then evaluated by a review team based on the selection criteria, and applicants are notified in writing whether or not they were accepted to the program. It's important to note that spending for the grant-funded projects cannot begin until there is a signed contract for an agreed-upon use of funds. So you cannot apply for something you've already done. You would need to wait to apply and to participate and to get a signed contract before any grant funding were to take place. So this RFR, or request for response, is available on a program website for what you're looking for. We can also mail you an application, and we're glad to do that. But before you fill out the application, we encourage you to read through the RFR to determine that you are, or at least you think you are, eligible to apply by checking off all of the eligibility requirements, making sure that the program is a good fit for your farm needs, looking and making sure that what you want to do with the funds is allowable, and look specifically at the application submission instructions for what's required. So different applications might need signatures by maybe the landowners and the applicants, might need a map. Other programs need other things. So just make sure that you read through and plan ahead to make sure that you get everything done and send the application in time by the deadline. Make sure you answer questions legibly, clearly. We do really encourage farmers to fill out these applications themselves. There is a listing of grant writers now available on the MDAR site that we can point you to if you do need grant writing help that people can self-select. But we really do set up these applications in a way that farmers should be able to answer basic questions and about their farm operation, and some open-ended questions about their needs and why the program would benefit them. So please allow time to get the application in by the due date, and note that some of these applications are due in different ways. For these particular applications, we can accept them by email, and we can accept them by mailing to the West Springfield office by the deadline. We can't accept postmarks, so make sure that you get it in the mail in time so that we have it in our hands by 4 o'clock on April 18th, which is going to be the due date for all 3 of the programs that we're talking about today. So the 3 programs that we're going to be talking about are all termed farm viability programs at the department because they're under the same general umbrella with similar goals and a similar timeline. So the purpose of all of these programs is to provide business planning and technical assistance, as well as capital grants to increase the viability of farms. The first program we're going to talk about today is the APR Improvement Program, and this is for farms that own lands that has already been permanently protected through the state APR program. And if that's the case, you probably know it. The grant funds for infrastructure improvements And so again, this is for permanently protected farms. And if you do have any questions, we can certainly look your farm up and tell you if it's been permanently protected. The next program we're going to be talking about is the Farm Viability Enhancement Program. This program is for established commercial farms that have been in business at least 3 years and have at least 5 acres of owned land that is in active production. Land ownership is required for this particular program because in return for the grants, the owners would be placing short-term covenants on their land to keep it in agricultural use for a term. And we'll talk about that a little bit more when Laura presents. And then the third one is the Matching Enterprise Grants for Agriculture, which Jess will talk about. This is our Beginning Farmer program for farmers in business between 1 and 10 years. And you do not need to own land to apply to this program, but we do want you to have a lease if you are a written lease if you don't own it, to make sure that you have secure land access. So that's an overview of the 3 programs. The real benefit of these programs versus other programs that are available is that we have a business planning process. So if you are all ready to go with an infrastructure project, there may be some other grants that could get you the funds quicker. But the advantage of this particular program is that you get support and you get help with planning the projects as well as planning for your farm business. And that all is free to you if you're accepted into the program. It doesn't come out of the grant. Each farm is assigned a business planner to work with one-on-one to either develop or update a business plan for your farm that includes financial projections. And this can really help guide the growth of your farm. It can help you look at specifics such as pricing or enterprises and whether or not it makes sense to kind of go forward into expansions. It can help you kind of get all your thoughts down on paper and really help guide the growth of your business. It can also be beneficial to have a business plan for financing, as some ag lenders look for that. So that's all a benefit. And in addition to the business planning assistance, we also offer additional technical assistance that's available based on individual farm needs if you want it. We have a long list of subcontractors that we work with. Some of them are farmers, others are experts in other areas. And these are just some examples that we often get requests for a consultation around succession planning to figure out, next steps for transitioning the farm to the next generation, QuickBooks or other financial assistance beyond what's going into the plan, marketing plans, in-depth strategies for making sure that you utilize social media techniques and other events and other plans to help connect with your market for your business. We can develop websites or update websites for your farm. Building layout and evaluation for when you're doing big building projects, we can bring someone in and help you out with that. And then other things dependent on the needs of your particular business, such as pasture management or pruning or whatever it is that you need, as long as we have somebody available with that expertise. We also have mentorship through the Beginning Farmer program that connects established farmers with beginning mega farmers when they need just a little more in-depth assistance in a particular area of need. So those are all additional areas of assistance that we provide through this first phase of the program for all 3 of these programs. This is the timeline in terms of the viability programs for this coming year. Again, the fiscal year 2025 is what you would be applying for now, which starts July 1st. These RFRs and applications are posted. They're on our websites. We can also mail you applications, and the applications are due April 18th. We'll then go through the review and approval process, which takes several months. And we need to get those approvals and get our final budget confirmed. And then we will notify all applicants by usually by September of this year. The business and planning and technical assistance would then start around October. We would come out to your farm and give you an orientation and explain everything, all the requirements and expectations. And then we would connect you with your business planner and any other technical assistance you need to take place between October 2024 and March of 2025. So we really kind of orient all of this around what's usually a little bit of a less busy season for all of you. The grant projects would then begin once we signed a contract with you around March or April 2025. And the timelines are a little different for implementation depending on the program. The mega projects do need to be complete by June 30th before they're reimbursed. That is a reimbursement program. So you do need to have your funds lined up ahead of time. And then you'll get reimbursed when it's complete. The AIP works the same way. The AIP and farm viability projects do have a longer timeline for implementation. A lot of times those are bigger grants, oftentimes bigger infrastructure projects. And so we do have a contract that lets you have usually about 14 months from the time you sign the contract around April to the following June of 2026 will be the implementation timeline for those two programs. That should say AIP and farm viability. So now I'm going to be talking in a little more depth about this particular program, which again, the APR Improvement Program or AIP is for farms that have already been permanently protected through the state APR program for at least 3 years. The funding goes to owners, and the owner applicants have to have managed the farm for at least 3 years. We could have co-applicants, an owner and an operator apply together, but the funds would go to the owner. So that, you know, we can work together with you on that. We would require a $40,000 gross income required for eligibility for commercial farms. Again, this program includes the business planning and technical assistance. And then the grant levels for this coming year, we have increased. The grant levels are going to be $100,000, $125,000, or $150,000. All of them will require a 10% match, which is a lower match than we've had in previous years. And that will be awarded on a reimbursement basis. Which grant level you qualify for, you can look in our RFR, and we have a table in there that you can look in detail to see. But it's based on acreage under APR, as well as your gross income of your farm operation in the previous year. As to what you would qualify for, we would let you know in the notification letter and then give you the final approval of that grant amount upon completion of the farm business plan that you work with a planner on through the program. The grant funds for this particular program really need to kind of stay with the APR farm. So it really is a reinvestment in APRs that the state has invested in protecting. And therefore, the funds need to be spent primarily on farm infrastructure. So at least 90% of the grant needs to go towards things like new or improved buildings or resource improvements, meaning improvements to the land like drainage or irrigation or orchard renovation or fencing, something like that. And 10% could be used on equipment. Some project examples. So we have some photos here of some projects that were completed pretty recently. I believe one is a wash pack building up at the top right. The red barn, we helped this farm add on to their current building for some goat housing, livestock housing. And then the picture on the bottom right is a new building that was completed this past year for asparagus sorting, packing, and packaging. So we work with all different types of buildings. I should stress, you know, no matter what you do, as long as you're a commercial ag business. So we can help with a lot of different infrastructure needs, and there are some examples here. Okay, I'm going to pass it on to Laura now to talk about the Farm Viability Enhancement Program.
Thanks, Melissa. Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Barley. I coordinate the Farm Viability Enhancement Program. It's been around since 1996, and you'll notice some similar eligibility and grant fund uses between Farm Viability and AIP, but I'll explain the program in depth. So in terms of eligibility, as we do require that farms who are applying need a minimum of $40,000 in gross farm income in the most recent tax year. It's gross, not net. We require that you have at least 3 years earning farm income, and we require land ownership with that 5-acre minimum in production. And we do need to see that at least 5 acres is in active agricultural production rather than just a 5-acre lot with some farming happening on a portion of it. I do want to add that this program does allow participation of operators on rented land, but we do need to see that you have a cooperative landowner who signs the application, as well as a copy of a written lease that covers the duration of the covenant term, which I'll get into next. So once selected, the grant program entails a few different things that Melissa has already mentioned with AIP. So with farm viability, there's also that business planning and technical assistance period over the fall and winter, usually between September, October, and March, where you're getting that complimentary one-on-one business plan and any other technical assistance you're interested in. The grant itself is offered once that business plan is approved. Grant levels are at $100,000, $150,000, and $200,000 this year, which is an increase from prior years. And these are for farm improvements identified in your business plan. And these funds, differently from AIP, these funds are offered upfront in conjunction with an agricultural covenant. So the covenant is, it's a deed restriction that requires the land to stay in agricultural use for a term of 10 or 15 years. And the covenant term and the grant level just depend on your eligibility based on your gross farm income and the acreage to go under covenant. So those details are available in our RFR if you have any questions there. Melissa, if you want to go to the next slide. All right, eligible uses. Again, there's a lot of similarity with AIP in that we're investing in farm infrastructure. So buildings like a farm store, livestock housing, you could do farm labor housing, renovate a barn. We do tend to fund equipment a little bit more. You know, we fund things like bulk tanks or sap tanks, field equipment, tractors, things like that. We don't have a limit there, as well as resource improvements like fencing or a more temporary structure like a greenhouse. And in the last year, just to give some recent project examples, things we've funded include a new milk room, a hay barn renovation of an extremely old but still functional hay barn, a wash pack building we've done solar on the rooftops of agricultural buildings, a heifer barn, a new farm store, and a commercial kitchen. So there are a lot of possibilities with this program, and we're happy to take questions in the Q&A about that. But otherwise, I think I'm going to pass it off to Jess so that she can talk about MEGA. Thanks, Melissa.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jess Camp, Matching Enterprise Grants for Agriculture, or MEGA Program Coordinator, and that is our viability program for beginning farmers. Last year in fiscal year 2024, the program expanded eligibility and grant levels, and that is continuing for fiscal year 2025. So I'll just highlight that expansion here at the top. The first component is that farmers up to 10 years in business may be eligible for the program. Previously, it was 6 years. So now beginning farmers at 7 to 10 years may be eligible for the program. Additionally, prior participants of the MEGA program may be eligible to participate in the program a second time. In that case, there would need to be at least 3 years since their previous mega contract was signed. And then along with these expansions in eligibility, the grant levels have been expanded. The $10,000, which was previously the only grant level, now there are grant levels of $20,000 or $30,000 that may be available. So now I'll go into some general details about the mega program. Of course, you want to be sure to read through the request for response to get all the relevant program details and requirements. But in terms of eligibility, we're looking at beginning farmers, and that means folks who have at least 1 and no more than 10 years in business. There is a minimum gross farm income requirement of at least $10,000, and we do require that the prior year tax form be submitted along with the application. As Melissa mentioned earlier, you do not need to own land to be eligible for MEGA, but you do need secure land access. And that written signed lease must also be submitted along with your application for the program, and the landowner must sign the application. So as I mentioned before, we've got expanded grant levels of up to $10,000, $20,000, or $30,000 that may be available. And the determinations for those grant levels are based on the number of years in business for the farm, the gross farm income, and prior MEGA participation. So MEGA is the grant awards are offered on a 1-to-1 matching cost reimbursement basis. So this means that the MEGA farmer will fund the full cost of the project upfront and then be reimbursed for the grant award. So for example, for a grant award of $10,000, you must have total project costs of at least $20,000. The MEGA participant will complete the project, spend $20,000, submit their receipts, and then receive reimbursement. So in the end, the farmer has contributed $10,000 towards the project, and the grant award has contributed $10,000 to the project. And we can go to the next slide. So MEGA follows the same structure as the other viability programs, beginning with the business planning and technical assistance phase. And Melissa highlighted the mentorship option within MEGA as a particular opportunity for technical assistance within the program that is farmer to farmer and more in depth, the chance for MEGA farmers to work with an experienced farmer on a specific learning goal, visiting each other's farms, and having follow-up discussions. The other thing I want to kind of highlight is how the business planning and technical assistance phase impacts the project timeline for MEGA. So business planning and technical assistance is October through March, which means you're looking at a project starting about a year from now in March or April of 2025 that must be completed by June of 2025. So you're looking at a project implementation in the spring of 2025. And in terms of projects that we're looking to fund through MEGA, those are capital investments for either equipment or infrastructure. We're interested in investments that are going to help support and stay with the farm business. So we've got a few examples here of equipment. There's an oyster tumbler down there. I don't have any pictures, but tractors and implements are certainly possible projects through MEGA. Livestock housing, walk-in cooler, just some of the examples of past and potential projects through the program. And I also want to mention that on the MEGA program webpage, we have a listing of, I think it's 3 years of previous projects funded through the program. And we can actually go to the next slide, because that's not just true for MEGA. On each of the program pages, there are, under the additional resources section, there are previous projects completed through the various programs for you to get another way to get a sense of projects completed through these programs. There's also in that same section a frequently asked questions for each of the programs. And here we've got a recap of the program coordinators for each of the programs you've heard about today, for you to please follow up with us about any questions you may have regarding your potential application. One other resource I want to highlight before we wrap up the presentation portion for today is at the bottom. There is the link to the MDAR grants and financial assistance page. So on this page, you can find a listing of all the grants and financial assistance programs offered by MDAR, but at the top, there is an overview section with a link to the grant story map. And on that story map page, again, there's a project example for each of the programs that gives you a little bit more of an in-depth look at one project example with some photos and a little bit more of a narrative to talk about a specific project example for each of the programs. So unless I've missed anything and my other presenters want to chime in, I think we've completed the presentation part of our program today and can stop the recording and take some questions.